And I got to tell you, according to some, Mark Thompson, you may have drawn the short stick now with the topic I'm about to give you. Are you ready?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. You get the topic, for anywhere you want to go with it, of people joining these public service announcements about masks. And a new entry into this space is Sean Hannity. Take a look.
Masks, PPE, it kept them safe, and I was right here in the epicenter. At every store I went to, everybody was wearing their mask, and thankfully, my grocery store, nobody got COVID-19. So, what did I learn? I don't have a problem wearing a mask, especially if it means we can go to a ball game or to defend grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad.
Take it away.
Well, that's a fastball right down the middle for me, Ari. For people who have gotten sick, remained sick, and who have died, we really have to lay all of their circumstances at the feet of Donald Trump. He ignored all the warnings about this. In fact, at one of his last speeches in Tulsa, he said, "What does the 19 mean? I don't know what 19 means." This was discovered in 2019, and he's still in denial about it. Everyone in his administration and all of his Republican sycophants said that this would just wash over. It wasn't a big deal. They were more concerned about the economy, allegedly. They minimized mask wearing. And so now it's kind of Johnny come lately. It's good. People should be talking about wearing masks now. But it's Johnny come lately. You know, right down the street from you, Ari, in Times Square, is a Trump death clock, because it shows how many people have died from this virus because of the negligence of his administration. So I pray that all of the young people, everyone this weekend realizes how important this is. To wear masks this weekend, to be safe, not to be running around outdoors with him at any fireworks display. And let me just say this. He's running around saying, oh, 4.8 million jobs. But as soon as people went back to those jobs because of premature reopenings, many of them are losing those jobs again now because of those reopenings, and it's just not safe. So we can't rest on these laws. This thing is still out here. It's very, very serious. What, their cases have gone up more than they've gone up ever, over 50,000 in the past 48 hours. So we hope and we pray that people will show some responsibility for everyone. And just one thing on Sean Hannity.
Mark, hold up. I was going to say, and then I'll let you continue, that maybe it's the holiday spirit, but so far you've been quite diplomatic, because I know that you and Sean Hannity clash on a variety of items. But so far you've been diplomatic. But go ahead and finish.
Well, I'm going there. It was on, and of course, a member of the kitchen cabinet. He's de facto chief of staff in the White House. But it was on Fox News that they had the lieutenant governor of Texas saying grandma and grandpa might just have to sacrifice their lives for the good of the economy. But they do that. It's the Putin tech, the fog of unknowability. They say one thing, and then they come back and say something else, like they were for masks in the first place. So, yeah, for the sake of their audience, God bless them, their audience who are victims of their false propaganda, good. Listen to Sean. Sean's right to say put the mask on, but we must remember the hypocrisy. It is as hypocritical as Frederick Douglass called the 4th of July for black people itself.
An apt reference, joined by Professor Brittany Cooper, author of Eloquent Rage, A Black Feminist Discovers Her Superpower, and Mark Thompson back with us. Brittany, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, Trump is a total failure, and unfortunately, the country got to see that in stark relief in June. We could anticipate that this was going to happen when he decided to make this, as I've been calling it, necropolitical calculation in March and April, that he was going to ignore the coronavirus, And then when it really hit the country hard and 100,000 folks died and over 20,000 of those folks were Black people, when we began to see that disproportionately Black people were dying, the conversation about reopening ramped up from his administration. That frustration, plus the killing of George Floyd and the killing of Breonna Taylor by police, drove people into the streets in the middle of a pandemic. And so what we got to see was the way in which he's not prepared to lead. When terrible things happen, he sticks his head in the sand, he engages in wishful thinking, and he also thought that the old playbook that got him elected in 2016 would actually work, that he could stoke racial fires and racial animus in the country, that he could antagonize these protesters, and that would actually make him look strong. The problem was that he did that in the middle of a pandemic when people had a front row seat to seeing George Floyd be killed. And when folks are forced to see state power enacted in that way up close, and they've got the time to digest it, as we all do these days, then people had a sort of consciousness shift that said, look, something is very wrong here, and the president is not providing the leadership that we need. It was a terrible month. I think that it will go down in infamy as, as the turning point of the Trump presidency. At least this is the thing I pray for. And so, I don't know that there's any coming back for Trump from this point forward.
Mark, you're nodding.
Yeah. First of all, an honor to be on with Professor Crunk. She always drops it. And we should learn that term, necropolitics. Let me also, if you don't mind, all right, let me just commend you on the segment you did in the last hour on the history of Black artists and violence against them, and police violence in particular against them. I really want to commend you for that. That's documentary worthy. I agree with everything that Professor Crunk said. I would only add a couple of points to it. He clearly is exploiting race. And as people like him, demagogues like him, have often done throughout history, race and racism becomes a distraction from reality. White people are dying in this pandemic. Now, clearly, we're dying disproportionately. But if he can convince them, as he's always saying, the economy's fine, everything's okay, 4th of July, I mean, it's really, tomorrow is really more so the 4th of his lie. The segment you just did on Russia, I want people to think about this. And I think this is a direct example of how he exploits race. He knows about the Russian bounties. He knows all about it. He's lying when he says he doesn't. So watch this. He strategically starts talking about the Confederacy so that he can trick people into thinking he cares something about U.S. military history or U.S. service members. And that's supposed to distract from the fact that the very service members of today have bounties on their heads. How dare he accuse Colin Kaepernick of disrespecting the troops when he is disrespecting the troops by not speaking out against Putin, number one. And frankly, every NFL player ought to get on their knees, because what Putin is doing is this to our troops in Afghanistan is the same thing that the police are doing to Black people in America. It is appalling and a disgrace. And I pray with Professor Crunk, people have got to wake up and make sure that once and for all, he is sent home for good come November.
Well, I believe the name of the show is Make It Plain, your series, Mark, which is what you do.